The warning shot wasn't supposed to connect, but as splinters erupted from the hull, the lone woman on the sailboat didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. She just reached for a phone that could ruin them all. The sun beat down on the Strait of Malacca, turning the sea into a shimmering expanse of liquid steel. On this canvas of blinding light, a lone sailboat, the Serenity, cut a graceful line. At its helm stood Alara Vance. To any observer, she was the picture of a seasoned solo sailor, a woman in her early 30s with a lean, athletic build, her dark hair tied back in a practical bun. Her face was youthful, yet her eyes, the color of a winter sea, held a depth that spoke of countless horizons. She moved with an unhurried precision, her hands guiding the vessel with an innate familiarity. But beneath the deck, hidden within a standard navigation console, a custom satellite system hummed quietly, a piece of technology starkly at odds with the boat's civilian appearance. A glint on the horizon sharpened into the formidable silhouette of a U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Defiance. Alara had been expecting it. She continued her course, her expression unreadable, as the warship altered its path to intercept. On the bridge of the Defiance, Commander Kalen Hayes watched the sailboat through high-powered binoculars. A knot of professional unease tightened in his gut. She's holding her course, heading straight for the restricted zone. He murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Thorne, his executive officer, stepped beside him. Thorne's posture was ramrod straight, his uniform immaculate, his ambition a palpable force field. Civilian vessel on bearing 310. Hayes announced into the radio. This is the USS Defiance. You are approaching restricted waters. Alter your course immediately. Through the lenses, they saw Alara raise a hand in a polite, almost casual wave. She did not alter her course. She's acknowledging but not complying, Thorne noted, a sharp edge of annoyance in his voice. Another activist looking to make a statement. Sir, we should be firm. Let's not jump to conclusions. Marcus, Hayes replied, though a sliver of doubt had entered his own mind. He issued another warning, his tone more forceful. Again, Alara simply offered a calm, non-committal nod, her sailboat maintaining its steady, deliberate pace. Thorne's jaw tightened. Sir, regulations are explicit. An unauthorized vessel in these waters, especially with regional tensions this high, she could be a probe, gathering intelligence. He leaned in, his voice a low, insistent hum. She's taunting us. We need to demonstrate resolve. Hayes studied the woman again. Something didn't fit. The boat was too sleek, too advanced. The woman was too calm. Her every movement too economical. But Thorne was right about the regulations, and the pressure was mounting. He felt his authority being tested. With a grim sigh, he took the radio himself. Civilian vessel, this is your final warning. Alter course immediately, or we will be forced to fire a warning shot across your bow. The final warning hung in the air, thick with unspoken threat. On the deck of the Serenity, Alara received it with the same unnerving calm. She glanced at her watch, then at a series of readings on her hidden console. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Back on the Defiance, Thorne's satisfaction was barely concealed. Prepare to fire a warning shot, Hayes ordered, his voice tight with reluctance. Aim well clear of the vessel. Standard protocol. Yes, sir, Thorne responded, relaying the order to the weapons station with an eagerness that unsettled Hayes. The crack of the 5-inch gun echoed across the water. But something went catastrophically wrong. Instead of splashing harmlessly in front of the sailboat, the shell clipped the stern. An ugly scar of splintered wood and fiberglass erupted on the pristine white hull. Water began to pour through the breach. What the hell happened? Hayes roared, snatching the binoculars. That was a direct hit. Sir, the sea conditions, a sudden swell, must have affected the trajectory, Thorne offered quickly, his face a mask of professional concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. The targeting coordinates were correct. Cursing under his breath, Hayes grabbed the radio. Civilian vessel, this is USS Defiance. Do you require assistance? We are preparing rescue operations. The crew on the bridge watched, expecting to see panic. a distress flare, a frantic mayday call. Instead, they saw Alara Vance calmly step into her cabin. She emerged a moment later holding a sleek, black satellite phone, devoid of any logos or branding. It looked less like a piece of communication equipment and more like a weapon. She made a single, brief call. Her words were few, spoken with chilling clarity. Through the ship's long-range microphones, they heard her say, "Wraith. Straight of Malacca. Hayes." "Confirmed." Thorne scoffed. "Who's she calling?" "Her lawyer." Hayes didn't answer. A cold dread, sharp and absolute, was creeping up his spine. The woman's reaction was wrong. All wrong. No fear, no anger, not even concern for her sinking boat. Just that strange, deliberate call. "Sir," an officer from the communications station cried out, his voice laced with panic. "We're picking up. Something is bypassing our encryption. It's inside our systems." Before Hayes could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and died. The standard communications channels fell silent, replaced by a single, overriding transmission that blasted from every speaker. A digitally altered voice, cold and devoid of humanity, filled the space. "USS Defiance, this is Stratcom Override. You have engaged a Ghost-class asset. Authentication code, Whiskey, Romeo, Alpha, India, Tango, Hotel." The bridge fell into a stunned, absolute silence. Every officer stared at the speakers, their faces pale with disbelief. Thorne turned to Hayes, his composure finally cracking. "Sir, what is this?" The color had drained from Kalen Hayes' face. He recognized the code, a phantom protocol from a top-secret briefing he'd received years ago upon taking command. A briefing about ghosts in the machine, assets so secret they officially didn't exist. Something he was told would never, ever happen. "Stand down, all weapon systems," Hayes ordered, his voice a strained whisper. "Now." "But sir, we don't know who." Thorne began to protest, his adherence to protocol warring with the impossible reality unfolding around them. "That's an order, Lieutenant Commander." Hayes snapped, his voice cracking like a whip. "Stand down, everything. Prepare to receive an incoming priority transmission." Thorne hesitated, then relayed the orders, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning fear. The tension on the bridge was thick enough to choke on. "Sir," the communications officer called out, his voice trembling. "We're receiving a secure video transmission. It's coming through on the emergency command channel." "Put on the main screen," Hayes commanded, his body rigid. The central view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Admiral Eva Rostova. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun. Her uniform was a constellation of metals, but it was her eyes, cold with a fury that seemed to burn through the screen, that seized their attention. Behind her, the blurred figures of other high-ranking officials, both military and civilian, remained deliberately out of focus. "Commander Hayes," Rostova began, her voice like cracking ice. "Do you have any conceivable idea what you have just done?" Hayes stood at ramrod attention. "Admiral, we engaged an unresponsive civilian vessel approaching restricted waters. We followed standard protocol. The warning shot inadvertently struck the hull. That is not some tourist who strayed off course, Commander." Rostova cut him off, her voice dripping with contempt. "That is Alara Vance." Thorne, emboldened by a lifetime of following rules, stepped forward. "With all due respect, Admiral, who is Alara Vance?" The Admiral's gaze shifted to Thorne, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop another 10 degrees. "Someone, Lieutenant Commander, you are not clear to know about." Suddenly, the bridge's secondary screens were hijacked, displaying a dizzying montage of classified footage. They saw a younger Alara, her face grimed with dust, pulling a diplomat from the burning wreckage of an embassy in Beirut. They saw her in Tokyo, her hands moving with impossible speed to disable a sophisticated biochemical device, seconds before it was set to detonate. They saw her standing in the Oval Office, receiving a medal from a former president in a ceremony so secret it had been erased from all official records. "Ms. Vance isn't just an asset," Admiral Rostova explained, her voice a low, dangerous growl. "She is the chief architect of the Phantom program. Half the encryption protocols your naval systems run on were designed by her. When she went private, the CIA, NSA, and DIA all signed a treaty guaranteeing her complete operational autonomy. Hayes felt the floor drop out from under him. "Admiral, there was no notification of a sanctioned operation in this sector. Nothing in our briefings. Because there wasn't supposed to be," Rostova retorted. "That boat you just fired on is gathering data on illicit arms shipments. Data our official vessels can't get near without triggering an international incident." Her phone call, "Commander," was to the Secretary of Defense. It has triggered an automatic top-to-bottom audit of the entire Pacific command structure. A commotion at the entrance to the bridge drew their attention. A junior officer rushed in, breathless. "Sir, an aircraft is on approach. AV-22 Osprey, black, no markings. It's not responding to hails." Hayes looked to the Admiral on the screen. She gave a curt nod. "Let it land, Commander." That's Director Julian Croft of Naval Intelligence. The name hung in the air like a death sentence. Julian Croft was a legend, a ghost who ran the Navy's deepest secrets. His personal appearance on a vessel meant the situation had escalated beyond catastrophic. The Black Osprey landed on the Defiance's deck with unnerving precision. From it emerged a tall, lean man in a perfectly tailored dark suit that seemed to command more authority than any uniform. Director Croft ignored the salutes of the deck crew, his eyes fixed forward. He walked directly to the edge of the deck, faced Ilara's distant, damaged sailboat, and stood at perfect attention. Then he rendered a slow, formal salute, holding it for a long, silent moment. Through his binoculars, Hayes watched as Ilara, still on her deck, finally acknowledged the gesture with a small, almost imperceptible nod. The exchange felt ancient, a ritual from a world of shadows. "What was that?" Thorne whispered, having materialized at Hayes' side. "Recognition," Hayes replied quietly. "For a compromised sovereign asset." Before he could explain further, Director Croft turned and approached them, his cold, analytical eyes scanning them both before settling on Hayes. "Commander, we need to talk." In the ship's conference room, the air was frigid. Croft stood at the head of the table, his presence dominating the space. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice soft but carrying immense weight. "What happened today represents a catastrophic failure of intelligence protocol, not tactical judgment." He activated a secure tablet, and a holographic display of classified files materialized above the table. Clearances and operational parameters so high, Hayes had never known they existed. "Ilara Vance is a sovereign asset," Croft stated. "She operates with complete autonomy, independent of any standard command structure, with full authorization from the highest levels of government. 3 flag officers in your direct chain of command receive quarterly updates on her activities. All 3 failed to implement the proper notification protocols to prevent this encounter." He tapped the tablet. "Effective immediately, this patrol unit is suspended. 2 admirals have already tendered their resignations." "Lieutenant Commander Thorne," he said, turning his gaze on the executive officer, "your file shows a pattern of aggressive interpretations of the rules of engagement. Today, that pattern intersected with a situation you were not equipped to evaluate. You are being reassigned, pending a full review." Thorne shot to his feet, his face flushed with indignation. "Sir, this is unjust. We followed procedure." "Your assessment was tactically sound," Croft acknowledged without a flicker of emotion. "But your response was strategically disastrous. You pushed for escalation when caution was required. That is why you are being reassigned." The finality in his voice was absolute. As the other officers sat in stunned silence, Hayes cleared his throat. "Sir, request permission to personally apologize to Ms. Vance." The request seemed to surprise Croft. He studied Hayes with a new, calculating interest. "Why?" "Because if I'm a commanding officer responsible for the error," Hayes said, his voice steady, "then the apology should come from me. Directly." Croft considered this for a long moment, then nodded. "Granted, I'll have a launch prepared." 20 minutes later, Hayes was in a small launch, cutting through the waves toward the Serenity. As he drew closer, he saw the true nature of the vessel. What had looked like decorative trim were reinforced hull sections. What appeared to be standard antennae were sophisticated sensor arrays in disguise. The entire boat was a masterpiece of deception. He found Alara on deck, methodically repairing the hull. She was applying a black, polymer-like gel that spread into the gash and hardened instantly, seamlessly bonding with the surrounding material. Her movements were efficient, devoid of any wasted motion. "Ms. Vance," Hayes began formally as he stepped aboard. "I want to apologize." "Commander," she interrupted, not looking up from her work. "I put myself in your path. This was a scheduled test of response protocols. Your tactical assessment was correct. Your intelligence briefing was not." Her voice was clear and precise, with an accent he couldn't place. It held an effortless authority. "They're dismantling our entire unit because of this," Hayes said, unable to keep the bitterness out of his voice. Alara finally looked up, and her sharp, evaluating gaze made him feel like a raw recruit. "No, they're restructuring because the system failed. A vulnerability was exposed. Now it can be fixed." She set aside her tools and retrieved a small, unmarked device, no larger than a thumb drive, from a waterproof case. "When you're reassigned, and you will be reassigned, not discharged, plug this into any secure terminal. It will give you access to the real briefings, the ones you should have had." Hayes took the device, his fingers closing around the cool metal. "Why me? Why not Thorne?" "Lieutenant Commander Thorne follows rules," she said simply. "You understand why rules sometimes need to be broken. Your file showed potential. Your actions today confirmed it. My file. I have access to everything, Commander. That's part of the arrangement." She returned to her work. "You have questions? Ask them." He hesitated, then chose directness. "Are you military? Intelligence? A private contractor?" "Yes," she replied, offering no further explanation. "Your call sign on the bridge. They called you Wraitha." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips. "It's what some people call me." She finished her repair, the hull now looking as if it had never been damaged. "Your last question, Commander. Make it count." As he turned to leave, a final, nagging question surfaced. "This boat, the technology, how?" She looked out at the open sea. "The best secrets aren't kept in underground bunkers, Commander. They're hidden in plain sight." As Hayes climbed back into his launch, he glanced back. He watched, utterly mesmerized, as panels on the Serenity's hull shifted silently. Concealed lights activated, and sections of the vessel reconfigured themselves. Then, with the grace of a living creature, the entire boat slipped smoothly beneath the waves, leaving behind nothing but a faint ripple on the surface of the sea. By the time he reached the Defiance, it was as if Alara Vance had never been there at all. Back on the bridge of the Defiance, Hayes found Director Croft waiting for him. "She gave you something?" Croft stated. It wasn't a question. Hayes nodded, patting the pocket where the device rested. "Your service record is impressive, Commander," Croft said, his tone shifting. "Your next assignment was supposed to be a desk job at Packham. I'm offering you an alternative. Naval Intelligence has a specialized unit, the Aegis Division. We focus on unconventional threats. We work with assets like her." He handed Hayes a sealed envelope. "Your orders, should you choose to accept. You have 24 hours. 3 months later, Commander Kalen Hayes sat in a sparse, secure office deep within Naval Intelligence. The files on his screen detailed operations that officially never happened, orchestrated by ghosts like Alara Vance. He read about averted crises and saved lives, all accomplished in the shadows, far from any headline or citation. A note at the bottom of one file, written by an anonymous analyst, read, "Some serve in the light, others serve in the shadow. Both are necessary." He finally took out the device Alara had given him and inserted it into his secure terminal. A new set of protocols unlocked, revealing a hidden network, a bridge between his world and hers. He now understood. He wasn't just an officer anymore. He was a guardian of the line between the known and the unknown. The world is full of heroes who operate in the shadows, far from any spotlight. Who do you think are the real unsung heroes in our society today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep the discussion thoughtful and, as always, comment with respect. If you love stories where the truth is more incredible than fiction, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video.